Mangwanani malelepo vukenjani kwekwas vana ve Africa. Today is a Thursday. It is almost the weekend, and we'd like to welcome you to Africa Good Morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories as we take you across the continent with the issues shaping lives and leadership. Today, deadly floods deepen Mozambique's humanitarian emergency as the UN raises alarm. Uganda faces renewed political tension following election disputes and fresh concerns over opposition leader Kizza Besigye's health. We also explore how artificial intelligence could reshape healthcare through a new Bill Gates and OpenAI partnership. With weather updates, the South Africa report with Arrie Hougaard, economic insights from Zimbabwe and Congo, and AFCON celebrations from Senegal, this is your complete continental briefing. AGM can be watched on DSTV285 GOTV 25, NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA and NTV Afrika on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top story shortly.
Ready to be entertained? We've got you. GOTV's got more shows just for you.
That's right.
More movies?
Yes, jackpot.
More kids shows?
Of course.
And more football than anywhere else.
No doubt about it.
Yes, we've got more. And we've got you. Pay for your current GOTV package and we'll upgrade you to the next highest package. Get more with GOTV. At home or on the go with GOTV Stream. GOTV. Love it.
It's time for us to get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. After weeks of relentless rainfall, floodwaters have submerged vast areas of Mozambique's Maputo province, leaving communities stranded and infrastructure severely damaged. Since the rainy season began in October, more than 100 people have been killed across the country. Now, in Maputo province alone, over 36,000 residents have been affected, with thousands of kilometers of roads destroyed, blocking humanitarian access. Rosita Augusto, trapped by rising water, said she and others had been stuck for days and were forced to risk crossing to reach home. Provincial Governor Manuel Tule said authorities were still gathering information while preparing rescue plans for those waiting to be evacuated. Now, nationwide, more than 500,000 people have been impacted, with tens of thousands sheltering in emergency centers, lacking sufficient treated water and fuel for boats. Opposition leaders accuse the government of poor preparation despite billions received for climate and urban projects. UNICEF warned January's exceptional rains have created a rapidly escalating emergency, turning unsafe water, disease outbreaks and malnutrition into deadly threats, particularly for children. With cyclone season approaching and more rain forecast, officials do fear that the toll could rise further. Uganda's military chief and son of the president, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has ordered opposition leader Bobi Wine to surrender following the country's contested presidential election. Wine, a former pop star who finished runner-up, said he fled after a military raid on his home hours before President Yoweri Museveni was declared the landslide winner. Wine has alleged widespread electoral fraud and has released statements from undisclosed locations. In social media posts, Kainerugaba referred to him by a derogatory nickname and warned he would be treated as an outlaw if he failed to report to the police. He also claimed security forces had killed members of Wine's National Unity platform, remarks that intensified political tensions. Police spokesperson Kituma Rusoke later said Wine was not being sought. The election period was marked by a tense campaign in which security forces repeatedly opened fire at opposition rallies. Several incidents of post-election violence were reported, including disputed killings of opposition supporters. Kainerugaba has a history of inflammatory online posts and has spoken openly about succeeding his father as well as killing Bobi Wine. At least 118 NUP members now face election-related charges, which the party denies involved violent activity. The health of detained Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye has reached a critical stage, and this is according to his party, after he was taken overnight to a private medical facility in Kampala under heavy security. The People's Front for Freedom said the 69-year-old politician was suffering severe illness, though prison authorities described the visit as a routine checkup. Besigye has been in detention since November 2024 and faces treason charges in a military court alongside allegations of illegal firearm possession and threatening national security, which he denies. His party says authorities have failed to provide proper medical care, calling his continued detention a violation of basic rights. Prison officials insist he is under standard supervision and in stable condition. Besigye's wife, Winnie Bayanyima, said he complained of acute stomach pain, high temperature and severe dehydration, adding he was unable to walk and refused treatment from prison staff. The opposition leader was seized in Kenya with an associate and returned to Uganda. He has previously gone on hunger strike while in custody. Calls from family, opposition groups and human rights organizations for his release on medical grounds are growing. We move from Uganda to Africa. The Gates Foundation and OpenAI have announced a $50 million partnership aimed at helping African countries use artificial intelligence to strengthen health systems and offset international aid cuts. Speaking at Davos, Bill Gates said the initiative, known as Horizon 1000, would begin by working with leaders in Rwanda before expanding to other countries. The program seeks to support health services strained by funding reductions that followed a decline in global development assistance last year, led by Donald Trump. Gates said AI could help reverse setbacks that contributed to the first rise in preventable child deaths in this century. The partnership plans to reach 1,000 primary health clinics and surrounding communities by 2028, focusing on regions facing severe shortages of doctors and healthcare infrastructure. Rwanda has already established an AI health hub in Kigali. Officials say the technology will be used responsibly to reduce pressure on health workers, improve care quality, and reach more patients. Priority areas include support for pregnant women and HIV patients, offering guidance before clinic visits, and improving communication across language barriers. AI tools are also expected to reduce paperwork, better link patients' records, and shorten consultation times while improving overall care delivery. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by our correspondent in South Africa, Arrie Hougaard, as he breaks down the latest stories from Mzansi. But prior to that, let's have a look at the weather. It's time for us to get the South Africa report delivered by the one and only Arrie Hougaard, who is in Cape Town. Now, Arrie, one of your top stories with regards to current affairs is that the IMF is concerned about South Africa's economic growth. Take it away.
South Africa, the first news is related to the economy, and that is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. They made an announcement. They say they're concerned that South Africa's growth for the next 2 years will be under the average expected for the sub-Saharan African countries. So they expect for the sub-Saharan African countries, the average to be around 4.6% growth for 2026 and 2027. But for South Africa, they say it will be closer to 1.4% for 2026 and then 1.5% for 2027. So reasons for that is still the failing infrastructure of South Africa, unfortunately, related to water and electricity. Then also the high unemployment rate is a factor, and then insufficient state-owned enterprises that's not doing well. There's hundreds of billions of South African rand in liabilities with the state entities like Transnet, ESCOM and the SABC. Then President Cyril Ramaphosa, he announced also increases in salaries. So that is for government workers, 4.1% for judges and magistrates, and then it is 3.8% increase in salaries. That is for the public office, for the MPs, the members of Parliament. And so COSATU, they said they dismayed about this announcement, and it is for the new budget that there needs to be an extra 536 million South African rand to cover this increase. Then staying with the economy of South Africa, it is the motor industry that's also in the news. It is the Motors Group and they're in the news because it's the largest vehicle showroom that they have in South Africa. There's about 300 dealerships, and they're non-manufacturing, so they have contracts selling cars only. They have contracts with Hyundai, also Renault and Kia, also Mitsubishi and Tata, so quite a few. But the news is that the unions of the Motors Group, they said that they're trying to get the Intertech to prevent them to slash salaries by 30%. So the challenge for the Motors Group is that revenue declined to 112.6 billion, that is for the past year, and they've paid 10 billion South African rand in salaries, quite a lot, but now there's affected 532 of the workers that's affected for salary cuts up to 30%. And so the challenge is that the revenue that dropped by 1.2 billion South African rand. So that's not good. The motor industry under pressure, but specifically Motors Group, they did not maybe go with the flow. Many of the companies tried to import or did import Chinese cars that is manufactured in China, and so they didn't really go that way, and they lost some tracking in the industry. So, but still, the CEO that's in the news. The CEO is Ockert Janse van Rensburg, so he still earned 33.5 million South African rand, and that was in 2025. Staying with things related to the economy in South Africa, that is cigarettes. So that's in the news. So the SA government still trying to figure out a way for illicit cigarettes and how to stop that. Effectively, 3 out of 4 cigarettes sold at the moment in South Africa is illicit, and that is 75%. And so SARS, South African Revenue Services, losing 30 billion South African rand in revenue annually because of this. So it is a big challenge, and now one of the big role players with that produces legally cigarettes in South Africa, that is British American Tobacco. They're going to close down their factory in Heidelberg. And that announcement was made because they're only at 35% capacity. So that's not good news. And the big effect for this was COVID. We all remember that in COVID they were not allowed to sell cigarettes. So that had a massive effect on the industry. And also now there's lots of informal trade surrounding the cigarettes. And that's also associated with alcohol, etc. Also clothes and electronics that come in. So in all, 10% of South Africa's GDP is illicit products at the moment. So that is current news in South Africa at the moment.
All right, Arrie, thank you very much for delivering the current affairs, especially those economic updates from South Africa. Now, we get into sport. Heading into the weekend, the United Rugby Championship continues with my beloved Stormers taking on the Sharks.
In sports news in South Africa, it is related to rugby and cricket news that we're going to talk about. And the rugby news, it's the United Rugby Championship that continue, and a big derby that's taking place in Cape Town. So it's a massive crowd that is expected. It is the Stormers, the local team in Cape Town. They're going to play against the Sharks, and that is this coming Saturday. So it's a big game. The Sharks and the Stormers also play next week as well in the United Rugby Championship. And quite recently, it was the Stormers that hosted the full house when they hosted the Blue Bulls. So there's lots of support for the Stormers in Cape Town. Other games, there's first 2 games on Friday evening. And the first one will be, that is the Bulls that play against Edinburgh. So that's a away game for the Bulls. That is 21:45, 10 minutes or 15 minutes to 10 in the evening, Namibian time. That game will be played on Friday. And then also the Lions, also a away game for them against the Ospreys. That's the same time, 15 minutes to 10 p.m. Namibian time. So that is 2 big rugby games on Friday evening before the big one on Saturday, the Stormers that play against the Sharks. At the moment, the Stormers lead. They've got after 8 games, they're unbeaten, so they've got 36 league points. 2 points ahead of the Glasgow Warriors, that's on 34 points. And then lower down, it is in 7th position, the Lions. They're on 21 points and looking to beat the Ospreys to get higher up on that list. 2 teams battling so far. They can change it all by winning over the weekend. It's the Bulls in 11th position on 16 league points. And then the Sharks are lowly down on 14th position out of the 16 teams, and they only have 14 points at the moment. But 2 big derbies coming up for them against the Stormers to rectify that. On to cricket news. It's the SA20, a very popular T20 international cricket tournament taking place in South Africa. The round-robin games are done, and now its places are trying to get into the final. It's going to be this coming Sunday, the final, the 25th of January. So a big game coming up, and that is on today. That is on Thursday. It is the Paarl Royals that play the Joburg Super Giants, and they play for a place in the semi-finals. And also it's good for those cricketers to be in action, because the World Cup, T20 World Cup for men, starts on the 7th of February. South Africa will play their first game against Canada, and there's a few injuries. It is Donovan Ferreira that is injured at the moment. He must go through a fitness test for him to be included in that touring party. So that is sports news at the moment in South Africa.
All right, Arrie, but now talk to us about Paarl, its Lions, and how it's a good place to visit.
In entertainment news, we go to the Paarl and we talk about the Paarl. That was in cricket, with the Paarl Royals being in action on the cricket field. But Paarl offer a great variety for the tourist, very popular. And today we talk Lions, and we also talk about wine. Lions we talk about, it's a Drakenstein Lions Park that you can visit when you're in Paarl, and that was established in 1998. That's to provide a place for the lions that's in distress. And that's a sanctuary, and they're very safe there and protected, and so they're free from abuse. So it's 60 hectares, so it's nice space for the lions, and it was founded for them to be safe and obviously to be protected. And so it's open from Mondays to Sundays. It is for the whole week, and it is 9:30 in the mornings that you can go there, and till 5 p.m. But special days to visit the lion park would be on Mondays, and also on Wednesdays and on Fridays. That's when the feeding of the lions take place, so that is quite interesting. That's 4 p.m. in the afternoons. And then also there's unique accommodation. There is safari tents that's in the middle of the lions den, and it's a sanctuary, but you're surrounded by the lions, so that is, luckily there's high fences, so that is a good enclosure. Very unique accommodation at the Drakenstein Lions Park. Then also briefly in entertainment, in the Paarl area is wine, and Brookdale Estate is one to visit. That's very unique, and there's various wines, various cultivars from France, Portugal and Italy at the Brookdale Estate. So it's a Chenin Blanc, it's old vine, so it's a real treat to go and visit there for the wine. Also red wine, Syrah, and red blend called GSM, and that is made up of Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault and Mourvedre. So it is a great place to visit. And there's also villas that you can stay in. There's a bistro if you're hungry, and then also there's hiking trails just 15 minutes away. So that's all to see. That's entertainment news, and that is in the Paarl area in the Boland. So that is entertainment news in South Africa.
Let's get into the economic news. Caledonia Mining Corporation has secured $150 million through a 7-year convertible bond offering to fund development of the Bilboes project, set to become Zimbabwe's largest gold mine. The capital raise marks the biggest international financing for the country in more than a decade, reflecting renewed investor interest after years of economic and policy uncertainty. The company said demand from U.S. institutional investors exceeded $600 million, describing the response as a strong endorsement of its strategy and assets. Caledonia currently operates the Blanket mine, which produces about 80,000 ounces of gold annually. Now, Bilboes is expected to begin production in late 2028 and reach output of 200,000 ounces per year from 2029 for an initial 10-year period. The total project cost is estimated at $584 million, with peak funding needs of $484 million. In addition to the bond issue, Caledonia is arranging a $150 million facility with Zimbabwean and South African banks and plans to engage regional and global lenders. Zimbabwe's gold output has rebounded sharply from just 3 metric tons in 2008 to a record 47 metric tons last year, supported by high global prices. In our other economic news story, the Democratic Republic of Congo has presented the United States with a shortlist of state-owned mining assets for potential investment under a bilateral minerals partnership. The list includes manganese, copper, cobalt, gold, lithium projects, and was delivered to Washington last week, according to senior Congolese officials. The move represents the most concrete step yet in translating diplomatic agreements into U.S. involvement in Congo's critical mineral sector. Efforts have accelerated since a U.S.-brokered pact between Congo and Rwanda eased regional tensions. American agencies have since backed infrastructure projects and signed marketing partnerships with state miner Geka Mines. The asset shortlist underwent several rounds of internal vetting and includes licenses and projects held by multiple state-owned companies that are not already committed under joint ventures. A joint steering committee made up of Congolese and U.S. representatives will oversee implementation and begin negotiations with investors. The initiative aligns with Washington's push to reduce reliance on China, which dominates global processing of key minerals. Congo said all steps are being taken in line with national laws. Officials declined to estimate the value of the assets, and government departments contacted for comment did not respond immediately. Let's take a quick break before we round off the broadcast with sport.
Life is unpredictable, and one needs to be protected against any eventuality. Get Santam legal access from as little as $50 Namibian a month for when you find yourself in need of legal representation due to civil cases, criminal prosecution, and family matters such as divorce, child maintenance, and custody. It also covers labor disputes, disciplinary hearings, and unfair dismissal or retrenchment. With Santam Legal Access, you'll receive free legal advice on almost every legal aspect, whether the specific matter is covered by your policy or not. For true peace of mind and legal protection when you need it most, call us on 061 292 8000. Santam. This is freedom.
We end with sport news. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye praised the national football team following their Africa Cup of Nations triumph, celebrating the players and coach during a parade in Dakar. The final against host Morocco was tense, marked by a late penalty decision that led Senegalese players to briefly walk off the pitch during stoppage time. The match resumed after intervention from senior players, including Mane, and Senegal went on to secure a 1-0 victory after extra time. President Faye gave special recognition to Sadio Mane, widely credited with calming teammates and persuading them to return to the field, preventing the match from being abandoned. Speaking at the presidential palace, Faye said Mane had become more than just a footballer. Outside, crowds danced, sang and sold posters as celebrations continued for Senegal's second AFCON title. Supporters said festivities extended beyond the country's borders, including in Mauritania and Guinea. Both FIFA and the Confederation of African Football criticized the team's temporary walk-off, while Morocco's Football Federation called for disciplinary action, arguing the incident disrupted the flow of play and affected performance. Despite the controversy, the victory sparked nationwide pride and jubilation. That's been our last story for this broadcast. Thank you for joining us on DSTV285 GOTV 251up2.com, Network Media Hub and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. We certainly will be back tomorrow. Glenora Shupura will be in the presenting seat as we continue to inform you on Africa's potent stories and, of course, Namibia's video news of the week. But for now, from me, Ashamberi, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jaganaka.